This video is on how to fix the flaws in AI generated art using Photoshop, specifically the Smudge Tool, because very often you will generate an image using AI art, whether it be Mid-Journey or Stable Diffusion or one of the many apps available, and you'll be generating this art for your project. No matter what your project might be, whether it's a greeting card or a page for a calendar or a graphic novel or just an image for your Instagram feed. And the image might be perfect except for one little thing. It might be a wonky eye or a mangled hand or an extra leg or little things like that. And it's just marring this otherwise perfect image that you would otherwise have. And there are various tools for editing AI art, in painting and things like that. But these tools also have a learning curve, and you might have to go into a different program to do this and whatever. And besides, you may already have an image editing program on your computer already. It could be Photoshop or Photoshop Elements or one of the free tools or open source tools like GIMP or whatever. It doesn't matter which tool you have, you might as well make use of it. And you don't need the fullest, most expensive version of Photoshop in order to do this. You don't need the professional version. You can do everything in my tutorial using Adobe Photoshop Elements, which has 90% of the tools that most people will need that the full version of Photoshop has. And there's no subscription fee. You just buy it once and you have it for as long as you have your computer. Now I have Photoshop Elements, and so that's what I'm going to be using for this tutorial. And I don't even have the latest version. I have Adobe Photoshop Elements 2020. So your tool might be a little different, but almost all of the tips that I give here will be applicable to your version of Photoshop or to whatever tool that you happen to use that uses pretty much a standard interface. My tutorial is done on a Mac, but it can be easily adapted to Windows as well. And there's another reason you might want to edit AI generated art, because the US Copyright Office has just recently ruled that creators cannot copyright AI generated art, which because supposedly it's generated by an AI, so it's not supposed to be copyrightable, which I think is ridiculous. I mean, if you take a picture with a camera, you didn't really do every pixel in that image by hand, did you? The camera did most of the work. All you had to do was point and shoot it at something, and that's still considered copyright. So why would AI generated art not be considered copyright? I think it has something to do with the fact that there's controversy that AI is stealing from the works of artists, which I also think is a bogus argument, because artists had to learn themselves by studying the work of other artists. Well, that's just exactly what AI does. It studies the work of existing artists or artists from the past, and it learns, and then it adds its own creativity to it. But AI is still a new thing in human history, and we haven't worked out all the aspects and ramifications of it yet. But I think if you take AI generated art and you edit it, then you add the human touch. I'm not a copyright lawyer, but by adding the human touch and editing it and making it your own, I think you can have a much stronger case that it's your art and it's copyrightable then. So let's get into how to edit AI art. So I've taken Photoshop and I've squeezed it down to a small window in the corner of my screen so that this video will look good on both a regular computer screen and on your iPhone, and the icons and the tools won't be too tiny in the finished video. So the first thing we want to cover is how to set up your workspace properly. So as you can see on the top of the screen, you have 3 different tabs, 3 different modes. You have the quick mode, the guided mode, and the expert mode. We want to be on the expert mode. Now the second most important thing in setting up your workspace is making sure you have the right palettes showing and that you know how to do that. And the two most useful palettes, in my opinion, are the layers palette and the history palette. So let's show you how you show and hide those. So to show the layers palette, you go to the window menu and then down to layers. And then that will show the layers palette. To show the history palette, you go down to the window menu and you click history. And that shows history palette, and you can put them over to the edge of the screen like that. That's called docking them. Now on the left side of your screen, you see the toolbar. Now these are all the tools that you use when working with Photoshop. This is similar to many other image editing programs and software in general. And you just click on the tool you want to use, and then you can drag it. Here I'm enlarging the image a little bit. And one thing to remember is when you use this toolbar, you click the tool button there, and then the options come down at the bottom. Options appear at the bottom. So you want to remember that. And another thing to remember is that when you look at your toolbar, you see the smudge tool there. But if I click on the brush tool, if that's the last tool I use, and then I click to something else, rather the blur tool icon shows up instead of the smudge tool. And you may say, well, where's that smudge tool I was looking at? Well, all of the similar tools are nested together, so you want to remember. The first thing to learn about Photoshop is to remember the relationship between the various tools and where they all are, because these are grouped, these are similar. This is blur, this is smudge, and this is sharpen or spot sharpen. So this is these are grouped together because they're kind of similar. So that's an important thing to remember. So the first thing you might want to do is spend quite a bit of time familiarizing yourself with the toolbar and where all the tools are and what each of them does. But most of this tutorial is going to be focused on the smudge tool, so we're going to switch to that. Now, this first image, you can see we have a signature here. Now, often I think the signature on AI art adds a nice little artistic touch to it, but in this case, it looks a little bit too much like Disney, Disney's signature. And Disney was one of the words I used in the prompt. I also used Anna Dittman. So I might want to remove this. So I click on the smudge tool. As you can see, I make sure the smudge tool is selected, not one of these other tools there. And another important thing is to check the strength. I usually put the strength up at 100%. The strength makes a huge difference in how much smudging it does, how effective or how powerful the tool is. So if I go up to there, it kind of blurs around a little bit. If I go here, it hardly does anything at all. If I go up to 100%, which is where we usually want to be, that's where we get the real work done. So as you see, I can just smudge that signature right out of existence. I don't want to go all the way across because it uses the color you're in the area that you're working with. So, and then I could always go to the blur tool and blur that out a little bit to smooth it out. But then we have eliminated the signature from the image. Now the next image we're going to work with is this one of Dracula. Now at first glance it looks fine, but if you blow it up a little bit, you see his one tooth is sticking out a little bit. So in order to give that the proper point, or to make sure it points in the right direction, remember that the tool, not necessarily the smudge tool, shows up in this section. Because the last tool I used was a blur tool, so we want to click on the blur tool, and then we want to click on the smudge tool down there, and then we just click and drag down a little bit to give his tooth the proper point, or the point in the right direction. Now the next image we're going to work with is this one of this mouse fighting this other little creature. I don't know what kind of creature he is, maybe a slug creature or something. But there are a few anomalies with this image that we probably want to get rid of. So first of all, I don't know if this is a throwing star or if that's supposed to be his hand there, but it's not really in the right place. So let's smudge that out. I might go to a slightly smaller brush, smudge brush, and the way you do that is you can option, or you can right click on the on the Mac. You can option click on the, or on either platform you right click and with the tool, and you get your tool palette, your size palette. And a method I like even better is just to hit the tap the left bracket key or the right bracket key on the keyboard. Left bracket key makes it smaller incrementally, and the right bracket key makes it larger. And so you're going to be changing the size of this tool all the time to fit the image and the resolution of the image. So that's a handy keyboard shortcut to remember. So now that I got the tool, then I use my normal mouse button and I just drag with the tool across. Then I can scroll up a little bit. This little piece of debris, I think I might, in the finished image, I might replace that with a magical dagger or something, a magical lightning bolt or something. I don't know what that little piece of debris is there, so I'm going to just smudge that out of there. And there you have it. Now to zoom out, again, you want to hit the modifier key on your keyboard. On the Mac, it's Option. On the Windows, I believe it's Alt. And then your magnifier turns into a demagnifier. Now I'm not pressing down the key, and it turns into a magnifier. I'm pressing down Option on the Mac, and it turns, the same tool turns into a demagnifier, and I can zoom back out. Now here's another nice Disney-esque image, but there are a few problems with this image, so why don't we fix this one next? So I'm going to zoom in on it a little bit, and the one problem is there are a couple of random white spots on her neck, so that's going to be real easy to smudge out. I might even smudge it sideways to get a better color match. I'm going to smudge this like so, and there we have that taken care of. Now here's a tool for scrolling around. You press your space bar and you get the hand tool, so you can drag the image around. The other problem is this spot on the top of her nose, so I'm going to smudge that out. Maybe make the brush a little bit bigger. And I even think that her nose might be a little bit too big here, so I'm going to take her hair and smudge that down a little bit like so. Maybe even a little bit more. And then I'm going to round out her nose a little bit again. Like so. And you'll need to do a few adjustments on it. And then I'll switch to my blur tool and I'll kind of blend it all together a little bit with the blur tool. And there you have it. You zoom out and it looks much better. You can't even tell that you made an edit to it. It just looks the way you want it to. Now in this next image, I'm going to show you a real handy tip. So, problem with this image is we have this lamp, street lamp, that's just like floating in the air. So again, we're going to switch to our trusty smudge tool. And remember, again, the last tool I used was the blur tool, so the smudge tool isn't showing. So don't think, where's the smudge tool? Remember, the smudge tool is combined with the blur tool. So we click on the blur tool, then we go down and we select the smudge tool. Now here's a really handy tip. You're going to like this if you don't know this one already. What you do, I'm going to drag up a little bit. You take your smudge tool, and I want to extend this lamppost all the way down so that the lamp isn't floating. So I got my smudge tool. Maybe I'll make the brush size a little bit bigger. I click once at the bottom of the lamp, the part that's already there. I click once on that. Now watch. Click once on that, and then I hold down Shift. Now watch this. This is a magic here. Hold down Shift, and boom. It fills in. It basically it smudges in a perfectly straight line. Whenever you click, and then hold Shift down and click again, where between the 2 points, it will always drag or smudge a perfectly straight line in between those 2 points. So that's a really that works with other tools too. That's a really handy tip to know. So now we zoom out, and there we have it. We have this lamppost that's not floating anymore. So for our next image, we have this nice image of this cat, but we have a bit of a problem here, and you could tell that the AI was trained on Getty Images, because we have the Getty Images kind of a distorted Getty Images logo there on the side of the image, because they trained it on the Getty Images, and they didn't use the non-watermarked images to train it with. So we're going to fix that. So naturally AI decided that is supposed to appear on some images. It doesn't know. So we're going to go to our smudge tool again. I made a slightly bigger brush, and we're going to use our probably our straight line trick a little bit here too. But first of all, I'm going to smudge part of this logo out, this part of the logo out here, using small little strokes so the colors blend together better. And now I think I'm going over a little far-ish, so I'm going to make the tool a little bigger. I might lower the strength down a little bit like this so I can smudge in the other direction, maybe even lower than that. And it tapers down a little bit more when you smudge in the other direction, when you lower the strength of it like that. And now I'm going to use my straight line tool, maybe go to a bit bigger brush, go back up to 100% strength. Click there, click there. That might blend in a little bit too much of the background in with the sword or whatever that is, so I'm going to click a little higher this time. Maybe a little bit lower like that. Maybe click right there. Maybe that's a little too powerful. Maybe a slightly smaller brush. Let's try that again. That's a little bit better. Maybe a little stronger. But you can get the idea of that there. And now I'm going to go back to 100. Maybe a slightly bigger brush. Now I'm going to use my shift click secret again. I'm going to click there, hold down Shift, and click at the end. And there you go. And there you have it. The watermark is now removed. Now here's a really nice image of a motorcyclist on a country road. Very peaceful, serene. But the perspective on the road isn't quite right. If we zoom in, it's kind of, the road seems to be sticking up a little bit right there, instead of like fading off into the distance. So we're going to use our handy smudge tool. Maybe switch to a slightly smaller brush, and just smudge those tree branches over a little bit so that they maybe I might even get that little crest of the hill there. And if I don't like that, I can always smudge another tree right here that goes in front of the road, so it doesn't look like it just sticks up in the air like that. I could even taper down the road a little bit to give a little bit more perspective there. So we zoom out, and that's how our edit looks. Maybe I might make a few other smudges there to make it blend down a little bit better. And remember, you can always do use undo if you don't like something you did. So how about more sophisticated edits? Well, here you can see we have a rather dramatic image. It's got a nice composition. It's got action. It looks very sci-fi. It looks kind of like comic book or movie scene or something. But there's only one problem, or one major problem, and this guy on the left has 3 legs. So can we fix a major problem like that? Well, with the smudge tool. Well, yes, we can. So I'm just going to click the smudge tool, and we're going to get rid of that extra leg here. So I'm going to just blur across like this, blur the ground a little bit across like so, and then just keep blurring the leg out, or smudging the leg out like so, and be sure always to use the local color so it blends in better. And I'm going to keep smudging using small strokes to just smudge that leg out of there. A few more smudges. Maybe I might use my straight lines secret here and make a nice quick smudge up like so, and a few more strokes this way. I might go to a smaller brush, and we might also zoom in a little bit here so we can see better, but it just needs a few more smudges. And just drag up a little bit, and maybe I'll taper it up like this. And now if we zoom out, we can see how it looks. So you can see that looks a lot better. I would of course make a few more adjustments to it, but now he has the proper number of legs. Now here's a really nice image. This is a lovely image of this girl at the lakefront. It's a really pretty artistic, painterly image, but there's only one problem with it. And if you scroll down, it's got a beautiful lake shore there, but if you scroll down, she's got a very serious tumor on the back of her arm there. So that doesn't look too good. So can we remove a major problem like that with the smudge tool? Well, yes, we can. So I'm going to click the smudge tool. I'm going to choose another brush. Remember, you right click to choose a larger brush. That might be a little bit too large. Here's a good brush, and then you just click to make it go away. And I'm going to smudge that tumor right out of there. Just use a few upstrokes like that. And I'm going to use my straight line tool, my straight line tip here, to kind of smudge her arm smoothly down to the bottom. Or I might start it right here. You might have to experiment around with it a little bit. Yeah, that's pretty good. And then we're going to smudge up to her elbow like that. And I'd make a few adjustments to it, but it looks a lot better now. And here we have a very beautiful image now, and she doesn't have a tumor on the back of her arm. Now you might say, well, that's all well and good, but can you fix a major problem like a deformed hand, which is often the problem with AI art? Well, yes, you can. As you can see, he's got 2 hands here. The one is pretty good, but the one only has 3 fingers, and I assume a thumb in the back there, but he only has 3 fingers. So can we fix this with the smudge tool? Well, yes, we can. So I'm going to switch to the smudge tool. I'm going to switch to a larger brush. I'm going to just use my keyboard shortcut and make it a little bit bigger. I'm going to click down here at the base of where his finger should start, and just hold down my secret shift key and just smudge it up there like so. Now maybe I might switch to a slightly smaller brush and just smudge up like this a little bit. and then I would you want to give it the same texture, but here's the another finger now. I might smooth it down a little bit like that way. I have to think about which way looks best. But then you zoom out, you want to give it the same texture as the rest of the fingers, and I might give it a little bit more of a differentiation up here that it's another finger. So I might go up here and make the joint where the fingers come together, or the knuckles rather, make it a little more pronounced, make this a little more pronounced maybe. But there you have it. It's not perfect, but maybe a bigger brush. And here's another tip, but you can use a really big brush if you want to make a major adjustment. I got a really big brush here. I'm going to smudge that part in a little bit. See how I'm smudging a great deal here, just changing the overall shape of the hand with a much larger brush. Now I'm going down a little bit like that. And then we zoom out, and it looks much better. Now you may say, well, that's good, but can you make major edits to AI art? Well, here I'm going to make a major edit to this piece of art, which was generated on my Alienware. And as you can see, it's a really nice image of a haunted house. But if we zoom in a little bit, it starts to look like an image in a funhouse mirror, because the roof line is all deformed. So you might ask, well, can we fix this image with a smudge tool? Yes, we can. So I'm going to take the smudge tool here. Maybe I'll zoom in a little bit first, a little bit more. Take the smudge tool, go to a much smaller brush. Now remember our secret straight line trick. So I'm going to click there, and then I'm going to zoom across like that by holding down the shift key. See there, I got almost perfect roof line right there in just a couple clicks. So I'm going to repeat that process with the rest of the roof line using a combination of the shift key and just smudging. And there we got this roof line pretty much taken care of. So let's go over to this roof line. We'll do the same thing. We'll go up there, click it once, hold down our shift key, and smudge a nice bit of perspective onto this roof line. And then we'll do the same, maybe this clock tower, if that's what it is, should be a little straighter. So I'm going to, I don't like that. I'm going to smudge up a little bit like so. Now this needs a nice little better perspective right there, and just just continue on as much as you want to make a better roof line. And now finally, the most important step, of course, is to save your images. So you just go up to File, or on the Mac you hit Command S, and the equivalent on Windows, and you click Save or Save As, and it will come up with the save window. And then what I like to do is I like to add edit to the end. So I don't overwrite the original artwork. I just add edit, EDIT, to the end, and so that way you can save it, and you don't overwrite the original image, and it's cut off of the screen. But I hit the save button or return, and then we get this. If you're using JPEG, I usually like save it at 9, and you get the JPEG options, and you click OK, and there you go. So I hope you found that helpful, and if you like that, please hit the like, subscribe, and share buttons, because if this video is popular, then I will do more videos explaining the other tools in your image editing program, because there are a whole bunch of tools that you can use to improve your AI art. And the Smudge tool is only one of them, but it's one of the more helpful ones. So thanks for watching, and talk to you later.